Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Cape Rugby TV where we take a look at weekly at what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby. Big thanks to our partners on board with us here at Cape Rugby TV. Score Energy Drinks, as you know, of course Score is on board with Western Province Rugby and the Western Province Club Rugby Sevens. If you want to win yourself a case of Score, that's coming up during the course of the show, so keep your mobile phones handy. Direct Access, your financial services partner, and of course MChem 24-hour pharmacy on the corner of N1 and Durban Road, and Thorburn Security Solutions. Folks, as I said, nice full show for us this evening. As we know, clubs are slowly heading towards training again, of course, under those specific regulations, and we'll take a look at that during the course of the show. Junaid Murat from Western Province Rugby will tell us more about the eSports 3 Cities 1 Team Challenge as they now head into the finals. CJ Dedricks talks to us about the NTK youth structures. We'll catch up with Labib Levy, the skills coach at the DHL Stormers. That was, of course, after their successful outing to Nelspruit, where they took on the Pumas. We'll speak to Faisal Felton from Western Province Rugby about the return to play and the COVID regulations that have to be implemented in order for training to take place according to the protocols and rules and regulations that SA Rugby have stipulated. But folks, on the line with me now is Zoe Nodia, no relation. Zoe is the False Bay Rugby women's team coach. And we find out a little bit more about what's happening at False Bay in terms of women's rugby. Zoe, fantastic to have you on the show. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really good.
Zoe, the last time that we spoke to you was on the side of the field at City Park, where you're busy.
Yes.
That was about a year or two ago, and in fact, you were refereeing women's rugby. You seem
Yes,
to have you seem to have stayed involved.
Yeah, I really have. Actually, that was the beginning of where I started getting things rolling. And once COVID started happening, I had to adapt since refereeing wasn't happening, and now I'm more into coaching. So yeah.
Did you know that you were going to coach at some stage? I mean, what got you involved with coaching? What was the move from being a referee? I'm sure we'll still see you refereeing a lot of games, but
Yeah.
was that always something that you wanted to do? Was coach?
Yes. So I actually finished high school and went straight into coaching all different sports, and then I got to the issue of, hey, you need to decide if you want to carry on playing or help the development of women's rugby. So I decided to stop playing rugby and focus on coaching, and then started a small initiative during lockdown called Women's Rugby Inc., which is now based at promoting women's rugby in South Africa. And yeah, that's also motivated me to carry on with False Bay and start that team up.
So let's talk a little bit about that. False Bay Rugby, you've got a team there dedicated to women. Tell us a little about the structures and how many members you've got.
Awesome. So we started at the beginning of this year. Roughly we have about 20 odd women coming down. It's very, very, very new. We were only training for about a month or two before COVID happened. So we had a few games planned, but yeah, they all got called off. So now during lockdown, we've been, hosting Zoom calls. Well, that was in the beginning, and now we've just started small conditioning sessions, but nothing much has happened.
Yeah.
With the team, but we are hosting a junior and a senior team. So the junior team will consist of high school students. So we have a lot of those in our team. At least probably more than half of the players are actually still in high school. And then we'll have a sevens team for seniors once things get started again.
Is there a big difference in terms of coaching? You've been involved with coaching for a long time now. Is there a big difference in terms of coaching women versus coaching men?
Actually, I enjoy coaching women more because I remember when I was a little small person and getting coached by another woman coach. They were my mentor, and that's what I strive to be for these younger girls. Is just to be a person for them to look up to and for them to strive to be, also promoting women's rugby. I do, in fact, enjoy teaching men and boys because their talent is amazing. I mean, you don't really need to tell them much, and they've already, mastered rugby or soccer or whatever they're actually playing.
And your skills as a referee, I mean, you that's where you started. You started off with refereeing, which means that you have an intimate knowledge of the rules and laws of the game. Are you able to bring that into your coaching?
Yeah, just having an in-depth knowledge about the laws of the game has actually helped me with coaching, where I can help the girls, teach them some tricks that say, that most players actually don't know. Say in scrumming, half the women players don't actually know that they must, do certain things. And then when I'm coaching my girls, they're like, "What? I never knew that we must actually do that." So I think a lot of coaches actually forget to tell the players the nitty-gritty things that they need to know. And that's sort of what I'm aiming to do.
And of course, there's a lot of people watching the show right now, and we're trying to get more women and girls to play rugby. I've got
Yeah.
to ask you the obvious question: why would you recommend rugby for women and girls?
I mean, let's get real. Every girl has wondered what it would be like to play rugby. That was me back in grade 7. I remember playing touch rugby for fun and being like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And luckily, I'm happy I found, sorry, I found the system. A lot of people don't, and I got straight into it. And I mean, who doesn't want to tackle someone? You got a bit of anger in it, tackle someone. You finished. You're done afterwards. So it's just one of those sports that women have always been like, wow, I've never been able to play it. There's never been the system where I can join and get in there. And now that it's growing, it's amazing, because they can go to any sort of club now, and there's some setup happening where girls
Yeah.
are training and women are training. So I mean, let's get real. Rugby is the best sport.
But it's great to see that there are club structures out there that are doing the same as you. They're also busy building Tigerberg Rugby Football Club,
Yes.
Eerste Rugby Club, Busy Bees
Yeah.
Rugby Club, UCT. I mean, there are a number out there. Must be exciting to
Yeah.
know that you are going to be playing and interacting with so many clubs.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about it. I've been in contact with a lot of the coaches and players from there, and we're organizing like massive tournaments for 2021. And I'm really excited to have, more than 2 rugby teams playing against
Yeah.
each other. We're going to have a pool of, hopefully 10 teams there, and that's, I think, the biggest it's been right now.
Zoe, if there are any young girls or women that, of course, want to join the false base structures and get started and get the ball rolling, how do they get in touch with you?
So probably the easiest way is to just find me on Facebook. But if you are struggling to find me, you can go onto the False Bay Facebook page or the website, False Bay Rugby Club, and you can contact them or email them, and they'll definitely pass my number through to you.
Zoe, we'll leave it at that. Great initiative. We can't wait to see the False Bay Rugby women's side on the park 2021, and lots of videos, of course, if the training starts getting allowed.
Yes, yeah, we're really, really excited. I think we all want rugby to start again, because life has been very sad without rugby.
Yeah. Thanks, Zoe. There we go, folks. Zoe Nordia, False Bay Rugby Football Club's women's team coach. And as she said, if you want to get in touch with False Bay's women's structures and join up there, you can just do a search for False Bay Rugby Football Club on Facebook. Alternatively, just go and visit their website. Just do a Google for False Bay Rugby Football Club, and you can sign up for the women and girls sides there at False Bay. Folks, as you know, Score Energy Drinks is, of course, on board with Western Province Club Rugby and the Western Province Club Rugby Sevens. Now, if you want to win yourself a case of Score Energy Drinks, then all you need to do is grab your mobile phone and SMS the word SCORE to 33090. 33090, you put yourself in the mix to win a case of Score Energy Drinks. Congratulations then to last week's winner, Willie Engelbrecht. Willie, congratulations. You walk away with a case of Score Energy Drinks. And somebody from Cape Rugby TV is going to be in touch with you shortly so that you can collect your case of Score Energy Drinks. Folks, don't go away. When we come back, we'll carry on talking about what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby. Welcome back, everybody. Cape Rugby TV. We carry on talking about what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby and, of course, Western Province Rugby. And as you know, slowly, things are getting back on track. Very slowly. We'll still wait and see what all the regulations say. But at least the Stormers are playing, and our DHL Western Province Rugby under-21 side is also playing. But one of the components that has been very active in all sports, around the world, in fact, has been the digital, the online component of sports, the esports section. And that's been so exciting. And you will remember that it was a few weeks ago that we spoke to Junaid Murat from Western Province Rugby, who was telling us about the 3 teams, 1 city esports challenge. And we've got Junaid back on the line now, because we of course had to find out how things went. Junaid, great to have you back on the show, man. Yeah, how are things there with you?
JP, I'm good, thank you. How are you? It's good to be back after lockdown, and good to be talking to you again.
Yeah, no, we're still very much stuck in the same boat of where we were for the last 6 months. We still don't have any club rugby back in action, but it's been up to guys like yourself that have been busy with Zoom calls and conference calls and training online, and of course esports.
Yeah, look, it's been a challenging sort of 6 months for everybody, but you know, we had to take the initiative and obviously improvise and innovate, which is what we've done. And I see there's a lot of clubs that have also been doing it, and you know, having training sessions online, etc. So obviously we started focusing on the esports aspect of you know, getting the franchise and getting the players involved and fans. So it was some stuff we were looking at, and obviously we're getting to the business end of it, and we're looking to expand and get into some new stuff. So it's good to be chatting about it and you know, informing the guys on what's happening out there.
Let's go back a few months now. I think that there's probably still lots of moms and dads that are watching the show, and they're watching us for the first time, and they're going, esports? What is esports? And so maybe give us a quick wrap. I mean, you're very involved in the digital side, the electronic side. Give us a quick snapshot of how do we define esports? What is esports? When we talk about esports, what are we talking about?
Right. So basically, it's guys that are playing, and I'll put it in layman's terms. So it's guys that are playing video games and they're playing each other. So when we were kids, we were sitting at home with your friends and your cousins and everyone sitting, and you're basically playing each other, whether you're playing FIFA 20 or whether you're playing the rugby game, and you know, you would have your own little competition of oaks competing on a video game. So what has happened since then is the video game space has morphed into what you call esports, and you've got people playing it professionally. You've got athletes that are getting paid to play it. It's become a full-time thing, similar to our professional athletes, our professional rugby players, our professional cricketers, you know, or soccer players. They are now professional esports players that do it 24/7.
This is, of course, now a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Different sport codes, PlayStation, Xbox, and like you say, almost an entire high-performance component to it, with millions of people around the world playing online games with each other.
No, correct. I mean, it's probably the fastest growing sport currently in the world, and also because the demographic is quite broad. So you've got your teenagers playing, and even those that are a bit younger, and then you've got your 30, 40, 50-year-olds also gaming. And what makes it exciting is that you've now have professional franchises like your Manchester Cities and your Barcelonas who have professional esports teams. So they contract esports players that play for the brand. You know, they represent the brand, they get paid a salary, and they would play against any of the other franchises. So it now allows you to play sort of cross-code. So you might have a Stormers team, but you can go and play against the Cobras, or you know, against Cape Town City, or against any other sporting code if they also have a professional team that you can compete against.
And that's exactly what you've done. There's 3 teams, 1 city. It's the Stormers against the Cobras against Cape Town City.
Correct. That is exactly, obviously, when we spoke, I think it was a few months ago when we just launched this thing. Obviously, it was new. There's lots of hiccups. There's learning curves, and you know, we all obviously we grow into it, and you know, we had some teething issues. We had a time where there was load shedding, and obviously this all happens online. So you've got a guy sitting in Johannesburg that needs to play a guy in Cape Town, but it's load shedding in Joburg. So the fixture can't take place. And so those things, obviously those are teething issues that is also learning curves.
Yeah.
But we're sort of at the business end now. We're getting to our semi-finals. And we're getting into the swing of things. Yeah.
So just tell us what that was then. The three teams, one city. It was of course the Stormers up against Cape Town City, and of course the Cobras. And you had players representing each team playing against each other, going through a competition format.
Correct. So how it started was each of the three sort of, let's call them franchises, which is City, Cobras, and Stormers, had their esports challenge, which served as qualifiers for 3 teams, 1 city. So you had fans that were playing, and we had anywhere between 400 and 500 people that actually entered across the 3 franchises. We then ended up with a top 8 in each of the franchises. They then came into one sort of competition league format, where we identified a top 16. And of that 16, obviously, it's split between guys that came through the Stormers qualifiers or City, right. And those top 16 then competed to where we now have a semi-finals.
Have we got any idea who the top guys are? I mean, I know that you say some of the Stormers players also playing.
Look, yeah. So we had guys like Damien and Jaco Coetzee, Jean-Ro Augustus. That also partook, so obviously they had a chance to play against some of the fans. We got to be honest, there were some really pro FIFA players. I think of the top 5 FIFA 20 players in the country that partook, and some of our Stormers pro rugby players got 7, 8, 9 and 10 nils on PlayStation and Xbox. So it's really, I mean, you could see the difference between, oaks that play for fun, that are good, and then professional players in the esports space.
Well, that's great fun. I mean, Junaid, and of course the fact that you can do this during the lockdown and with the restrictions in place, it really does give an opportunity for people to stay engaged with the Stormers brand. It gives an opportunity for the Stormers players themselves to be interactive and stay busy. Of course, they're playing now, but the timing was of course good. So this also helps with the sort of the connection of keeping rugby active.
No, I mean, of course, we were in lockdown, and I mean, everyone else was sitting at home, didn't know what to do, and the idea was to sort of try and get some traction for the brand, for some sponsors, get some people involved, get fans to interact with the players, and I think from here it can just sort of go forward and grow from strength to strength and actually become a permanent fixture on our calendar.
Junaid, we obviously have to, as we're heading into the finals now, we know you guys are about to make an announcement on the finals. In fact, I believe that might have been on your Facebook page already. But can you give us an idea who will be in the finals, or how are we doing?
Yeah, so as mentioned, obviously we had the semi-finals. So we've got a finalist in PlayStation 4 as well as a finalist in the Xbox. So representing the Stormers on PlayStation would be Zuhair Abrams. And on Xbox, it's Divac Danji. So Zuhair's from Cape Town, Divac's in Joburg. So you could see, I mean, guys were across the country playing, and they were playing online. So, we've got oaks from all over the country that are playing. So we want to wish them well, representing the Stormers, and hopefully we can come out winners in the end.
Well, hopefully we can get the winner, provided it's a Stormers player, on TV with us.
Oh, cheers. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Junaid. We'll catch up with you again soon, and we're looking forward to find out what the results are from the finals.
Thanks a lot, man. Keep up.
There we go, folks. Junaid Murat, of course, Western Province Rugby. Very exciting. Great to have the Stormers players then in the finals on the Xbox side and in the PlayStation side. It's been running for a few months now, and we're looking forward to see who those finalists are, at least who the winners are, over the next few days. Very exciting stuff. Esports, of course, one of the future dimensions of sport globally. Folks, we'll take an ad break. When we come back from the break, we'll carry on talking about what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby and Western Province Rugby. Back in a sec. Welcome back, everybody. Cape Rugby TV. We carry on talking about what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby. And as you know, of course, lockdown has been very difficult for everybody, and a lot of people are now focusing on the various different divisions within the club structure. Some folks are building the past player structures. Some of the clubs are really focusing on developing women's rugby. And of course, a lot of clubs still maintaining their focus on youth rugby structures. And joining me on the line now, and he's no stranger to club rugby. He's played at SK Women's, he's played at Kuilsrivier, he's played at Silurians, Belhar, and now he's at NTK. CJ Dedricks, who's heading up the NTK youth structures there, or the NTK Academy, joins us on the line now. CJ, nice to have you back on the line.
JP, thanks for having me, and opportunity for us to talk about junior club rugby at NTK.
Yeah, well, CJ, I mean, you've really got your hands stuck in here now. You've been involved with this youth academy at NTK for quite a while now, and of course, you know the club structures, as I mentioned. You know them. You know it inside out, from SK to Kuilsrivier to Silurians, Belhar. You just tell us, how did this start? How did the youth structure start for you guys with NTK?
Well, I've been coaching personally at primary schools, and I found out that the schools don't have enough time to actually educate the kids in terms of rugby in itself. If I may make an example, on a Monday, I have 20 kids at under 7 or under 8, and then you have them for an hour. And in that hour, you only basically teach them to catch a ball, to pass a ball. And then on Wednesday, they play a game. So if you sit back and you ask yourself, what have they actually learned within that hour? Because they've caught the ball twice, they've passed twice, the training session is over.
Yeah.
And we as coaches and as parents and as schools sit back and we expect these kids to perform, but we haven't given them enough education in terms of rugby in itself. And when I say that, if you ask any kid, why should your head be on the side of a hip when you tackle? Then some of them will tell you, I don't know. If you ask them, why do you need to run with the ball in 2 hands? Then they tell you, because my daddy told me that. Right. You know, the understanding of the principles and the fundamentals of the game, I think as a coach, we need to give back and we need to, have the kids with a solid foundation that one day they can represent at national level and at VP level.
So tell us a little bit about the youth structures at NTK. How many different teams have you got there from a kid's perspective?
Well, thankfully, last year when I started over a 2-day clinic, and then some parents came to me and said, listen, can't we do this on a more regular basis, because they see the quality of coaching. It also helps their kids in terms of when they go back to school, then, they become more of a force to reckon with, if I can put it that way, because they now got that certain skill. So we started with an under-7 group, and then it grew to about 22 kids, and we played a few friendly games against the Emmys and False Bay. And the word started getting out there that, look, NTK are, trying to start something not only within the community, but to develop for the club going forward. Yeah. And now we've grown into 3 age groups. We've got now an under 8 age group, under 10 age group, and under 12 age group. So it has grown very nicely that the schools also within the community have seen their kids come back to training and they learned a little more, or, they're more in the game. So it has helped us so forth that we want to try and grow step by step as we go. Obviously, we can't compete with the bigger clubs like Hamilton's, who have had such a good academy for so long. For me as a coach, that is sort of a goal that I want to also set up in terms of, after 15 years, Hammies have been able to achieve X. Yes. We would also like to use that as a platform and say, look, how have they done it? And we can maybe try and use the same structure going forward to also compete one day.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. One of the things that we've always noticed is that the clubs that have got youth structures, in fact, play an enormous role for the building of rugby, because there are still a lot of schools out there who don't have rugby as a sporting activity, and they rely on the clubs in their area to have youth structures. So of course
very much so.
And that must be one of the big roles that you guys see, that you're filling a gap, so to speak, that NTK is providing a platform for kids where there are maybe schools that don't have rugby as a sport.
Yes, definitely. There are many schools within the northern suburbs, and teachers have even said, when it gets to under 12, then rugby sort of fades out because they don't have enough coaches, or it costs too much to get outside coaches, or they don't even have sufficient space to have 4 teams practice at the same time. So with a club structure and a youth structure, it also gives the boys sort of a sneak peek of club rugby, because last year, if I may make an example, SK Warmers played against NTK in a league game. And during the halftime break, we had under sevens come out halftime and play for 5 minutes. And that's entertainment for the crowd as well. But
yeah.
also exciting for club rugby, because these boys now, for example, a parent came to me and said, my son said after that game, he wants to play on that field in a few years' time. So, that's a goal, and it gives me goosebumps for kids to actually see that, because the generation of rugby has changed such a lot that it's not cultivating the kids anymore.
No, that's fantastic, and we have of course have been talking about this link between the youth and the clubs. And I think at Western Province Rugby, we're fortunate enough to have it all under one banner. But what you're talking really about there is kids being able to see the senior players as role models.
Yes, definitely. So I think a lot of the small kids will look up to the senior players, and also, if from our club point of view, we've had a number of Springboks in the past that have come through the club. So there's also a good history around the club. I mean, Chester Williams played for the club, where Tian Strauss played for the club. And even though these kids may not know who those guys are, their parents can affiliate with who those guys were.
Yeah.
And if you've got ex-Springboks coming from your club, it's also nice to have a generation of youth to pull through the club as well.
CJ, if there are parents out there who want to join NTK or want to send their kids to the NTK youth structures, how do they get hold of you guys?
We've got an NTK Youth Academy Facebook page,
All right,
which they're welcome to send a message. And then we've also got an NTK Youth at Gmail email address, where they can email for any information and things like that.
And of course, kids can come and sign up. And at the moment, we know it's lockdown. But in a normal environment, how many times a week, for example, would you guys be training?
We train on a Friday afternoon from 2:30 to 3:30, which will be the under 8s, and then 3:30 to 4:30, which is under 10s, and then 4:30 to 5:30, which is the under 12s. Even though we've had the lockdown, and we've also had good responses where we've had Zoom sessions during lockdown, doing sit-ups, doing push-ups, burpees, and a number of the kids also getting involved just to try and keep active as well.
CJ, we're going to leave it at that, and we look forward to following the progress, getting lots of photographs, and hopefully we'll get lots of your young players playing for the senior team at NTK and then going on to play for Province.
Yes, I think it's great. Also, the community and the club, look, we strive to try and give our best to the club and to the community. So it's also good for us to create an opportunity for the kids that are coming through as well.
That's great stuff. CJ, we'll leave it at that. We'll say thanks to you for chatting with us, and of course remind you to stay safe out there, and of course follow all those lockdown regulations.
Yeah, thanks, Japes. If I can just say thank you to our sponsors, man, and the parents who have supported us. It's been phenomenal. I've always said without the support of parents and with sponsors, it makes it very difficult. At the moment, we've increased in terms of our sponsors because the numbers have also increased within the academy. So in December, we plan to have a new kit launch for the boys. Basically, the sponsors sponsor to have their name on the jersey, and we use that as a marketing and advertising. And of those jerseys, we sponsor to each boy within the academy. So it expands a bit in the marketing. And our main sponsors at this stage that have helped us is Passon's Motor Group. And I'm sure you know Mr. Johan Smal from Amaboka Boka. He has really been also an inspiration to say, look, I will support you if you really wanting to do this. Because when we started it, he gave balls and he, helped us out with certain equipment, and also Mr. Michael Besson from Besson's. So that's a good platform from guys seeing that we want to grow and want to do something for junior club rugby.
That's fantastic. CJ, we'll leave it at that and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks very much, JP.
Thanks, CJ. CJ, of course, building the NTK youth structures, folks, and we look forward to catching up more with CJ during in the future. Folks, CTC Sports has kindly donated 20 set of masks to Cape Rugby TV, and of course you remember CTC made all of the rugby jerseys for the Western Province Club Rugby Sevens, the Score Sevens, and CTC's kindly donated 20 masks to us here at Cape Rugby TV. And if you want to win for yourself a set of masks like this, a set of 20 masks with your own logo on it, then all you need to do is SMS the word CTC to 33090. Just SMS the word CTC to 33090 and you can put yourself in the mix to win your own set of custom-made masks. And congratulations then to Jeff Adams. Jeff walks away with a set of 20 masks courtesy of CTC Sports. Of course, Jeff, you have to fetch your masks at CTC Sports here in Cape Town. Folks, we'll take an ad break. When we come back from the break, we'll carry on talking about what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby as we catch up with Labib Levy, DHL Stormers, a skills coach. Back in a sec. Welcome back, everybody. Cape Rugby TV. We carry on talking about what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby, and of course, in that space, we speak to the folks from Western Province Rugby, perhaps the Stormers, perhaps the under-21s, perhaps the Currie Cup side. And as we know, Labib Levy is, of course, DHL Stormers skills coach, and Labib joins us again now. Labib, welcome back. We believe you guys had a good trip to Nelspruit.
Yeah, JP. We went up last Wednesday. We actually opted to go Wednesday versus Thursday, which is normally the day before. So we spent the extra day there just to acclimatize. So we flew to Joburg and took a nice bus trip, which was about 5 hours from Joburg to Nelspruit. So we basically spent the whole day traveling. On Wednesday, but it was quite cool. A lot of the guys were the first time in that part of the world, and it's like rural with a bit of game involved. So some guys actually took some of the locals took some of the guys on some game drives for
a little bit of a break.
Yeah, and the guys.
And of course, the players up there, they've been following the same protocols and regulations and safety concerns as the Stormers have been.
All over. I mean, it's regulated. It's government regulated. It's SASCOC related. It's rugby regulated. So there's no way of trying to let your guard down. And,
so
also,
when the players are seeing each other up there, they know that those same players have also been in a bubble.
Yeah, it's not in a bubble, but there is obviously the protocol, and especially what's been happening. We lost two players. Tuesday, not of having COVID, but being in contact with the Lions player of the week before was tested positive. So we had to take Skara and Kitsi into isolation, which is government against, not even us. 10 days, boom, out of the team, and that's why the Lions game was postponed or called off because of their exposure to the disease potentially.
Yeah, Labib, tell us from a training perspective and a preparation perspective. I mean, if we look at this just as teams go, the fact is that you started already. You've got to start thinking about this thing on a Tuesday already, of packing your bags, getting ready to fly. You've got to be up early in the morning, and as you said, then Wednesday morning early, you're on a flight. Then you fly to Johannesburg. And then there's moving from the airport to the bus, getting on the bus, and then it's 5 hours. I mean, your actual game preparation and play, it seems like a massive part of that is all about transport and traveling.
Yeah, the traveling impacts, especially COVID, because you have to arrive. It's almost like taking an international flight. You have to arrive an hour and a half earlier than what you used to, and the airport also has regulations in and out, and you walk longer routes, But our guys are prepared for it mentally. That's why we opted especially to go a day extra. But the preparation is done before that. We had a Friday game, so it's a quick turnaround. Fortunately, we played home at Newlands the week before, so it wasn't Sunday being a traveling day. Then you only had Monday, Tuesday, and travel Wednesday. So Newlands was Saturday, and we had an off day Sunday, and then early turnaround, and also had a captain's day at Mbubela Stadium.
So, Labib, let's talk a little bit about the day itself. I mean, it was the Pumas. It was Friday evening, and it did look like it was rather hot up there.
Well, it was quite hot, But according to Pumas, we were fortunate to have a cool
day.
a cool day. Yeah. So we played 7 o'clock, but it wasn't wet. But because of the heat, there was a bit of humidity on the ball, you know. So that was a factor. But the guys all sort of thing they're used to it. They get the hand sprays, sticky stuff, etc. Sticky cloths before they play, which does help. So that there's no excuses because both teams play with the same ball and the same conditions, you know.
Yeah.
But we do try our utmost to prepare them. Any 1%, they had massages Wednesday evening where the whole team had massages. Then they went for treatment, and then obviously the next day they have treatment. Those with niggles. So we try to keep them fresh. Our medical team, so we have a doctor and 2 physios on tour, and we had external masseurs, and then obviously they get water, recovery, other supplements to drink, etc.
Yeah. Labib, and then just from a game perspective, incredible comeback. That second half, 20 minutes left in the game, and you guys really turned up the gas and came from behind and put on an incredible performance towards the end there.
Yeah, like they say, it's a smash and grab. It was a smash and grab. I mean, they really brought the intensity, and they took the opportunities. They split our defense a few times, and they kept chipping away at the score. Obviously scoring. I think we were also fortunate at one stage when it was 37-14. They could have made it 44, but the one player knocked the ball, and that just gave us a bit of hope. And it was good character by the guys to actually chip away at the lead. And once after we scored the first comeback try, it actually just changed everything, and the belief came. Some individuals stepped up. Warwick Galant was phenomenal. Not only the winning try, but in the try before that, Salman getting the ball and putting a tip pass in. Edwil getting good space out of the wing.
That was a fantastic performance. The players really did look like they showed a lot of character. I mean, we know that you've got a very young team there as well, and the guys are still, and we of course understand that the momentum, and I must say, I feel maybe everybody else feels well, but I feel that the travelling out of Cape Town makes it quite difficult. It's quite a challenge there.
It makes it. But in professional sportmen, okay, we have the name players or the Springbok type players, but Pumas, there's always a tough game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Crick was in Kimberley, the tough game. People just think it's small, big union, but it's not like in the 80s where you can put 80 points past a team, the small unions. They're also professional. They have same schedules like us. The coach is big on conditioning, and you can see the players when you stand next to them after the game, etc. You can see they've put in hard yards, and it's guys that's been to big union that ended up there, all up and coming guys. So you can't underestimate the team in this competition.
Habib, that's fantastic. We're going to leave it at that. We'll say to you again, thanks for taking the time to chat with us, and we'll of course follow the progress, and we wish you guys all the best for Saturday.
Yeah, no, thanks for the support, guys, and we'll obviously try our best to make the Cape proud.
Thanks, Labib. We look forward to catching up with you again soon and find out how the DHL Stormers are doing. There we go, folks. Labib Levy, of course, DHL Stormers skills coach. Folks, as you know, MChem 24-hour pharmacy is, of course, on board with Cape Rugby TV. And on a weekly basis, we, in fact, do a public review on MChem. We do these reviews either posted on Facebook or on Google. And this week's review, in fact, comes in from Mrs. Jacobs 1000. She gave MChem a 5-star rating, and she goes on to say, great clinic and pharmacy. I take all my kids here. Staff and nurses are well informed and so kind. That's a 5-star rating there from Mrs. Jacobs 1000. Folks, every staff member at MChem 24-hour pharmacy is, of course, geared to help you with your pharmaceutical requirements from the minute that you park to the minute that you leave. MChem staff are there to help you with whatever you need, whenever you need it. And that is, of course, MChem's promise. MChem 24-hour pharmacy, always open, always there to help you, 24 hours a day, every day. Folks, don't go away. When we come back from the break, we'll carry on talking about what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby. Back in a sec. Welcome back, folks. Cape Rugby TV. We, of course, carry on talking about what's happening in the world of Western Province Club Rugby. Now, as you know, over the past 6 months, things have been very difficult for sport. And, of course, slowly now, we are slowly starting to see a bit of a return to training, a little bit of a return to play for some of the sports in South Africa. And, of course, rugby is no different. And we had the announcement just a few days ago that SA Rugby had, of course, approved some form of training for amateur rugby. But to tell us more about that, Faisal Felton, Western Province Rugby. Faisal joins us on the line now. Faisal, how are things there with you?
No, good evening, firstly, JP. No, great. Quite excited. Looking forward to get back. I think just looking forward generally just to be doing something and to be engaging now directly with the clubs. And I think from a club perspective, the feedback has been great. I think everybody has been waiting for this moment where we can, start training and start engaging, with players and that. So, yeah, definitely.
Did I sort of sum it up right there? Basically, it's been locked down and you've been waiting for SA Rugby to see what government says and see what the official recommendations are.
Yeah, no, Jobs, I think we've been monitoring, I think from SA Rugby side in terms of government, in terms of what has been gazetted and in terms of the regulation. And basically that has given us sort of guidelines as to, what we do and how we phase in the approach in terms of training and that. As you know, the professionals have been back, they're out there, they're training. The next step was to be the amateurs and in basically phasing them in. And see in terms of, Saro's approach, it's also a phased approach. It's not just go out there and start training. It's basically a step-by-step approach. And I think from the union side, we're quite excited about it. The clubs are excited. We have meetings whereby we're now going to start engaging with clubs in terms of putting the protocols in place. I think for many, it's quite a mammoth task that they see, but I think going through the steps, it's quite simple. But I think again, it's about making sure responsibility, accountability for us, especially our community, making sure our players and everybody is safe. So yeah, we're quite excited and looking forward to this, this opportunity.
So let me just understand this. We're definitely not talking about any club or any player being allowed to be back on the training field until all the processes have been complete. The protocols have been worked out and the paperwork has been worked out, and that there's an official approval.
Definitely, JP. I think, from our side, as player safety is more important than anything else. So before we're going to allow anything or anybody to do anything, there's got to be a sign-off from the union side. So from our side, it's an education process. I think the key thing here is just to make sure that we've ticked all the boxes. I think from the union side, from the club side, and also from the player side. So before we start the process of being allowed on the field, there's a number of things that need to be in place. And I think, with us tonight is the first, meeting that we're having with the clubs where we will sort of break down all the components that need to be completed in terms of compliance, but also for the clubs also to engage and ask questions. I think a lot of people have questions out there in terms of, what they're allowed to do, what aren't they allowed to do. So hopefully, in the next week or so, we'll clear up everything and then, it's back to training for the first 4 weeks, according to Saru's phased approach.
Of course, some of the components, as you say now, education is key. It's all about education. I mean, like you would normally have been educating how to referee a game, or how you would be coaching a game, or how you would be doing a workshop on box smart. Now you're actually doing a workshop on COVID, and this has many different elements to it.
No, definitely, James. As I said, the key thing here is education. I think also with what has happened the last couple of months and weeks, we're learning as we're going along. So the one key thing is, no one knows everything, but as we learn in terms of how to improve, where to improve, what we should be doing, and in terms of the protocols that need to be in place. So for the next couple of weeks, it's engaging with the clubs. And as I said, the key thing here is player safety, and also in terms of the venue and making sure everything is, is in place. I think from the union side, we're not going to take a risk on, with anybody's safety or anything until we know for certain that everything is in place. And number one, the key thing here is the clubs in terms of responsibility from their side. The club, unfortunately, they will have to see and ensure, number one, the protocols in place. There will be a compliance officer that specifically will deal only with COVID. So like you heard your math commissioner, you've now got a COVID compliance guy that will only look at safety elements of it. So we're trying to make sure there's not going to be a dual role for this. So his job is just specifically that. So so
well,
it's a learning experience. I think it's education.
I mean, it's interesting that you say that. You talk about the compliance officer. Government has made it very clear that the compliance officer is responsible for the health and safety of the venue.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's got it's a role. It's a big role. I mean, I've been a compliance officer now at Western Province the last couple of months. I've learned as we go along. And the one key thing is, firstly, when we started and you read through the documentation and, you try and understand it, I think that is the key, is trying to understand the virus and trying to understand in terms of how it works, but then looking at how do we conquer or how do we put up protocols in place to ensure the safety of all our, our players and our and the community and the facility. I think the key thing here is about ticking the boxes. So from the union side, it's going through that process of ticking the boxes, and the compliance officer, that's going to be his function. When he goes down to the field, is to make sure that all the protocols are set up, the screening is done, the documentation has been completed. It's making sure that we tick all the boxes in terms of ensuring the safety of everybody.
And of course, I mean, one of the components we do know about there is that that the authorities are in fact allowed to send an official to the venue to inspect the venue and check that the venue is compliant and that the compliance officer is following the protocols. So it doesn't seem like it's just call it unpoliced process. It can be regulated.
No, definitely. I think that's the importance from Western Province. We want to make sure that all our clubs understand in terms of what needs to be in place, but also to do our bit as far as managing and regulating in terms of what the policy is. Yeah. I think the key thing here is that, again, every club, everybody will be responsible for their community, for their facility. We have engaged with the city in terms of trying to also understand what is the city's role and function. What we also need to understand is that, a lot of the clubs are utilizing facilities which are multi-purpose. So we also need to understand the role in terms of the various sporting codes that utilize that facility. So it's not just, from rugby, we will be doing our bit. But the question now is, in terms of that FMC, that facility, the question now is how do we manage, that complex in terms of the other codes, and how do we accommodate everybody?
Well, I suppose that there's still a lot of work to do, from understanding the type of equipment that you might need at a venue, like a temperature gun or sanitization liquid. There's sprays that you might need. How do you do waste disposal? There are so many different components that obviously your guys are going to have to really be aware of. But the one easy start for all of the compliance officers, and this has been most impressive from World Rugby and SA Rugby, the one starting point, I suppose, is for all the coaches and any compliance officers or sports administrators out there to go and do the World Rugby COVID awareness course.
No, definitely, JP. I think from a union side, that's the first starting point, as you said, is from a player's perspective, from a coach, and also the administrator. I think the key thing here is education more than anything else. It's just making people aware in terms of the virus and what it's about, and how do we work around it, and and able to go ahead with the day-to-day runnings and that there. So that's one of our requirements before anything else, is that you do that online course. I mean, people listening tonight, go online. It's open for everybody and anybody. Just register on World Rugby and basically do that course.
Yeah, well, I know that you've in fact been sending it out in your weekly newsletter, the link to the World Rugby player welfare course, the COVID course. So it's been out there for a long time. So you guys have been a little bit ahead of the game there.
No, definitely. I think we need to, James. I think the main thing here is it's not a one-sided approach. I think it's about everybody doing their bit. And if we want to make this work, I think everybody needs to understand is that you've got a role to play, you've got a function to play in that community. And I think from rugby side, we want to get back on the field. So we need to work together. We need to make it happen. And it's going to need the buy-in and support of everybody out there. So I think from the union side, we're very blessed, in the sense that, with our clubs that we have and the support that we get from them. So I'm hoping, that, this, we can conquer this hurdle, and hopefully next year we can be out in the field and, playing and playing games. So
Well, Faisal,
that's
I think that's everybody's hope is to get us back on the park. And if we're training, well, that's a start. Like we've been saying for a long time now, this is our longest pre-season, and pre-season is a very exciting time for club rugby. It's always been. We now have a very long pre-season.
No, definitely. I think next year the guys are going to be a lot more eager, fit, and better conditioners. I think, again, James, the main thing here is I think, we're sitting with this, with COVID. I think we must take this opportunity now where we've been given. And I think that's the one thing I think from SA Rugby side is people have all been asking the question. You've come back and you've given us, conditioning, and then you looked at training. And what's going to happen with contact. It's a phased approach. Yeah. So I think at least now we've got some sort of guidelines as to what we can do. And I think within those parameters, clubs need to start now taking that advantage and looking in terms of our planning. And October, November, this is our pre-season. So perfectly positioned for next year, I would say.
Faisal, we look forward to that then. And I think from our side, we'll be happy to do a weekly COVID preparation and education component on the show here that'll help everybody out there understand some of the elements that you're busy deploying.
No, thanks a lot, JP, and thanks to everybody out there. And I think let's make it work. Thanks a lot, Dave.
There we go, folks. That was, of course, our catch-up there with Faisal Felton, Western Province Rugby, and lots of regulations to be implemented, and hopefully we'll see some of the clubs back at training quite soon. Folks, that's a wrap from us here this evening. We trust that you will remember to, of course, still adhere to all of the COVID regulations. Remember, practice social distancing, always wear a mask, and of course, wash your hands. Folks, that's a wrap. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place. Have a fantastic rugby weekend. Bye-bye.